odds are, just reading the word yawn made you want to do one. Maybe you already have. Go ahead, nobody's watching. Now here's the strange part. Almost everything you were taught about what just happened is wrong. You didn't do it because you're low on oxygen. You didn't do it because you're tired. What your body just did is around 400 million years old, and it has almost nothing to do with air. Let's start with a story you probably believe. Somewhere along the way, most of us picked up the idea that yawning is your body grabbing a gulp of oxygen or dumping carbon dioxide when your blood gets a little stale. It's tidy. It's in textbooks. It's also been dead for almost 40 years. In 1987, a scientist named Robert Provine decided to actually test it. He had people breathe pure oxygen. If yawning were about topping up oxygen, breathing the pure stuff should have switched it off. It didn't. They kept yawning. He had them breathe air loaded with carbon dioxide. If a yawn flushed CO2 out of you, that should have set off a storm of them. It didn't. He even had them exercise until they were breathing twice as hard. More air moving through the lungs, same number of yawns. Breathing and yawning, it turned out, run on completely separate machinery. Whatever a yawn is for, it is not a breath of fresh air. So what is it for? The best answer anyone has found is that a yawn is a radiator. It cools your brain. Your brain is a small furnace. It burns about a fifth of your body's energy, and it runs hottest at two particular moments, when it's working hard and when it's sliding towards sleep. Both are moments when its temperature can drift out of the narrow band where it works best. A yawn is one way it pumps the brakes. That enormous stretch of your jaw drives a surge of blood up through your head. That deep pull of cool air chills the blood on its way to your brain. The way air rushing over an engine carries heat away. Cool blood in, warm blood out. The furnace drops a fraction of a degree. This stays a nice theory right up until you start messing with the temperature. In one experiment, people watched videos of others yawning, which normally sets off a chain reaction. When those people breathed through their mouths, about half of them caught a yawn. When they were told to breathe through their nose instead, which cools the blood in your head more efficiently, the number who yawned dropped to 0. Not one person. Then researchers pressed a warm pack to people's foreheads while they watched. 41% yawned. They swapped it for a cold pack against the very same forehead. Yawning fell to 9%. Cool the brain from the outside, and the body stops asking for a yawn. There's even a version of this you can watch out in the world. People yawn less on a scorching day than a mild one. When the air outside is as hot as you are, it's useless as a coolant, so why bother? Your skull has a thermostat, and a yawn is one way it resets. Once you know a yawn is about cooling, a strange pattern snaps into focus. If the whole point is to cool a brain, then a bigger brain, with more to cool, should need a longer yawn. So researchers timed yawns across dozens of animals, from mice to elephants. That is exactly what they found. The bigger the brain and the more neurons packed inside it, the longer the yawn lasts. A mouse yawn is over in a blink. Ours drag on for 6 seconds or more. Humans, with all that gray matter to keep cool, have just about the longest yawns on the planet. So the next time a yawn stretches your whole face open and you can't rush it, that isn't laziness. That's a big, hot, expensive brain running its cooling cycle. And here's the thing nobody mentions. We think of a yawn as what you do when you're winding down. But look at when yawns actually strike. You yawn waking up, dragging yourself out of sleep. Soldiers yawn right before a parachute jump. Athletes yawn in the tunnel before they compete. Those aren't sleepy moments. Those are the moments you most need to be sharp. A yawn isn't your brain giving up and drifting off. It's your brain fighting to stay awake, cooling itself back into focus right when the pressure is on. And here's something you've felt 100 times without ever questioning it. Once a yawn starts, you can't stop it. Try to cut one short, and it comes out stunted and unsatisfying, like a sneeze that never landed. A yawn is a fixed sequence your body runs all the way to the end, from somewhere underneath your control. You don't decide to yawn. It happens to you, and then it tells you afterward, which is a strange amount of power to hand to something you never think about. Now, here is where it gets old, really old. You did not learn to yawn. Nobody teaches a baby to do it. It is already there. In fact, you were yawning before you were born. Point an ultrasound at a developing fetus and you'll catch it. Mouth stretching wide in the dark, weeks before it has a single thought, weeks before it has ever taken a breath of air. You yawned before you could see, before you could feel, before you were, in any real sense, you. Because a yawn is not a human invention. It's a piece of inheritance. Fish yawn. Snakes yawn. Birds yawn. Cats, dogs, hippos, owls trace the reflex back, and it runs all the way down to the first animals with jaws, something like 400 million years ago. Long before there were mammals, long before there was anything that looked remotely like us. That flicker in your jaw right now is one of the oldest things your body still knows how to do. You share it with a creature that swam in an ocean before the first dinosaur ever existed. But there is a second kind of yawn, and this one is much younger and much stranger. The catching kind. You know the feeling. Someone across the room yawns, and a few seconds later it climbs up your own throat, completely uninvited. You didn't decide to do it. It just arrived. Even reading about it can do it. Some of you have caught one just from watching this. And it doesn't stop at people. In one study, researchers simply sat and yawned in front of dogs. Most of the dogs yawned right back. Your yawn can leap the gap between two whole species and land in the animal asleep at your feet. Curiously, this catching yawn takes a while to grow into. Small children don't do it. It doesn't switch on until around age 4 or 5. Right around the time a child learns that other people have minds of their own. Something about a yawn reaches past language, past thought, and ties you to the creatures around you. Now, this is the part where most explanations tie a neat little bow. You've almost certainly heard it. Catching a yawn is a sign of empathy. The more you feel for other people, the story goes, the more easily their yawns tug one out of you. It's a lovely idea. It's on countless websites, and it is the shakiest science in this entire video. When researchers ran the largest test of it on hundreds of people, the link came apart in their hands. Once they accounted for age, empathy didn't predict who caught yawns and who didn't. Neither did intelligence. Neither did how tired someone was or the time of day. The only thing that mattered even a little was age. Older people caught fewer of them, and even that explained just a sliver of the difference between one person and the next. The rest? Nobody knows. One of the most ordinary things a human body does, something you'll do a dozen times before tonight, and science still can't tell you for certain why it spreads from one person to another. That's the honest shape of it. We can chill a brain and watch the yawning stop. We can trace the reflex back 400 million years to a fish. But the moment your yawn jumps into someone else, we are still mostly guessing, which is a strange thing to sit with. The most mindless thing your body does, the one you would never think twice about, turns out to be one of the oldest things about you. You didn't learn it. You inherited it, handed down from a fish, across an unbroken chain of open mouths 400 million years long, all the way to the one hanging open on your face at 2 a.m. So the next time a yawn rolls up out of nowhere and pulls your whole face wide, don't fight it. That's not boredom. That's not a lack of air. That's an ancient animal, cooling an ancient brain, exactly the way it has since long before your kind had a name. You're more ancient than you think.